Greetings and salutations. This is Imperator Vespasian bringing you the Emperor's Champion of the Black Templars. Now during this video, and indeed probably many more videos to come, you may occasionally hear the sound of rattlings and a ball being kicked against the back of our gaming room, which is rather tedious and annoying. I do apologise if you can hear any of those sounds. I'm trying to limit it as much as possible. However, our ruling emperor has decided to imprison us all in our domiciles, and people don't really seem to have much to do. And it was a great idea putting our gaming room in the furthest part of the house to give us some a nice area to play games. Unfortunately, it does back onto the garden of our neighbours, and even though we are in the middle of the countryside, that's where their rattlings appear to enjoy playing. So you'll have to just put up with it. Hopefully Nurgle will give them a blessing soon, and then they will go to bed. This is the Emperor's Champion of our Black Templars. A interesting fellow. Every time the Black Templars carry out a crusade, they select a Emperor's Champion, and his job is to kind of wander around the battlefield and show everyone by his own skills that the Black Templars are awesome. So this guy will walk around and he will try and single out powerful enemy troops, which he will go and do nasty things to using his huge two-handed black sword. That's the basic plot anyway, that's what he's supposed to do. Now, the Emperor's Champion dates right back to the Horus Heresy, because everything in 40k dates right back to the Horus Heresy. Well, unless you're playing Tau. So, no, not as far as Tau are concerned. But for the Imperium, way back, there's a chap by the name of Sigmarsund, who was a commander under Rogel Dawn. He was an Imperial Fist. He commanded the first company of the Imperial Fists, and they had black armor, and they became the Black Templars years later when the Imperial Fist was broken up into multiple chapters. The first company became the Black Templars, which is the army we're playing now. And Sigmarsund himself was chosen to be the Emperor's Champion, and he wandered around picking the champions of chaos and taking them down with his own, well, actually not with a black sword, but with two huge black axes which he used to wield. But nowadays they carry a black sword, probably ran out of axes. And so this black sword is the weapon he is carrying here. You can see it here. It's a lovely little weapon. You can see the etching on it, which is very nice. The Exterminatus. And he gets granted the black sword because he is the Emperor's Champion. And if the Emperor's Champion does fall in battle, theoretically any other Templar may pick up the sword and continue the owner of the chapter by carrying the Emperor's sword. So, the Emperor's Champion is chosen just before a campaign will start, just before a crusade will start. Remember, the Templars are a crusading chapter, they have no homeworld. And before the battle, before they set out for the first battle, all of the sword brethren will kneel and sort of meditate and stuff, until one of them has an epiphany and says, "Oh, the Emperor just gave me a vision, I'm the Emperor's Champion." And for some reason all the other people believe it, and the chaplains say, the Emperor has chosen a champion. Personally, I think he may be chosen because he's the one who's the most hungry, and they've waited long enough for breakfast. And so he goes, "I've had enough, I've had a vision," and there you go. Sorry, that's sacrilege. No, the Emperor actually gives him a vision. There you go. But that's how the champion is chosen. One would assume that the sort of person who would choose to be the Emperor's Champion would be the kind of person who would be the best to be it. They want to carry the blade, they want to represent the Emperor on the battlefield, and so they are volunteer basically. Although maybe they actually do get a vision from the Emperor, but you know, this let's just leave that one for later. So they're the one who actually wants to do this job, and so they are chosen. They are put in often the worst situations in battle, where they will lead troops. Now, as far as rank goes, technically they are merely a brethren. They're just a normal soldier. But in battle, they are effectively a bit like a war master back in the day of the heresy, which is a captain who is chosen to lead other captains. So very much like I would say, well, just like a war master, but they would lead other captains within the chapter, and but they have no actual rank. So the other captains will look up to this person to follow them. In fact, when the Reclusiarch, who was commanding the fortifications on Hell's Reach, when he left Hell's Reach to go and find the god weapon, which was buried by the Mechanicus during the First War, or the Second War technically, the Emperor's champion was left in charge, and he commanded the forces in the name of the Reclusiarch, who was the overall commander of the Templars on Hell's Reach, on the planet of Armageddon. So he commanded the troops in Hell's Reach in the name of the Reclusiarch, because he was the Emperor's champion. So it's a bit of an odd position. He doesn't really outrank a chaplain, he doesn't really outrank a captain even, but everyone will look up to this guy to lead them. Now in your games you're going to be using it really as a bonus trooper who you can use to take on enemy champions. That's really what it's for. And oops. And he is a really nice little figure. This figure came directly from Games Workshop. This is how it comes out of the box. I didn't do any modifications to it other than the base. And I think it's a really nice little figure. It's a good addition to your army. So he has standard movement 6 inches, because he's a foot trooper and everyone moves 6 inches. Weapon skill of 3, ballistic skill of 2+, strength of 5. The strength of 5 is because he's carrying the blade. Is it? Or does he get a bonus 2? No, he gets a bonus 2 for that. So with the blade, it's a strength of 7 in that case. Right. Okay. Strength of 5, toughness of 4, 2 wounds, which is a bit low for 8th edition. But we have no actual 8th edition rules for them. So 8th edition wounds seem to have gone up a little bit because of the way the game works. 3 attacks and leadership of 10 because he is the Emperor's champion. He is wearing specialised armour, so he has a save throw of 2+ instead of 3+. So he's wearing ancient Artificer armour, so even though he looks like a normal Space Marine, his armour is actually really ancient and probably dates back to the time of the Heresy, just like the sword does. So his armour is actually slightly better than regular armour. It's equivalent to a Terminator. He carries a black sword, which is +2 to strength, so that makes it strength 7. -3 AP, D3 damage. That's pretty good. You also get +1 attack, even though it's technically a two-handed weapon. He can still wield the sword with a bolt pistol, meaning he's got 2 weapons. So he gets +1 attack, and he re-rolls to wound, which is it's a nice weapon to have. He re-rolls to wound, 4 attacks in total if you add all the attacks together, and not too bad. He also carries a bolt pistol, which is a bolt pistol. Not much interesting there. As mentioned, he has the Armour of Faith, which is upgraded Artificer armour, and it gives him an additional 4+ invulnerable save, which is equivalent to Terminator armour. Although I think Terminator armour gives you a 5+ invulnerable save for these guys. Hang on, let's just check. No. One of these. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's 5+ invulnerable save. So this actually has better invulnerable save. It has a 4+ invulnerable save. which is probably why the wounds are 2, to be honest, because half the hits are going to disappear. It's not bad. Plus he's equivalent of Terminator armour. Pretty good, pretty good. He has Uphold the Honour of the Emperor, which means he cannot be pinned and cannot use cover. Not really sure, it's in 8th edition if that makes any difference. No pity, no remorse, no fear. Fearless in close combat. That is okay, but he's leadership 10, so fear's not going to really affect the guy. And he has Black Templar Tactics, which simply means that he gets to re-roll any failed rolls to charge. Again, leadership 10. He doesn't need any of these skills. He's good enough on his own to not need any of that stuff. And that's basically it. That's the guy himself. There's been quite a few rather famous Emperor's Champions, but I don't really see the point in going into detail on them unless you're really interested, and I could do a video on the different Emperor's Champions there's been. The one I'm most interested in, of course, is the Emperor's Champion in the Heresy, but this isn't a Heresy army. But also the Emperor's Champion on Hell's Reach, who commanded the troops there when... I forgot his name. Grimaldus, sorry. Oh, that's awful. I forgot Grimaldus' name. When Grimaldus wasn't present, he commanded the forces, and he was always in the thick of battle. He held the highway on his own while Grimaldus wasn't there, he held the walls of the palace, walls of the fortress, while Grimaldus went to fight off the troops who had landed in the docks from submarines. The orcs came from submarines of the docks. And this guy actually, with a handful of 180 Space Marines, held the troops back on the walls, held the orcs back on the walls, while Grimaldus had to send troops back to fight. Unfortunately, he got himself killed, and one of Grimaldus's squad picked up the Black Sword, and so he technically became the Emperor's Champion. Primus, I think it was, picked up the Emperor's Sword when he died, and he became the Emperor's Champion until the very last battle where everybody dies. It's a kind of a sad ending, really. But anyway, that's enough of that. That is the figure. That's the figure. It's available from Games Workshop. You can buy it in a pack. It is a fine cast figure. Unlike a lot of fine cast figures, I will say, the sword was not bent in any way. It's you can see it's tiny little bend in it, very, very slight, which you don't notice. So I'm very happy. So it's not bent. I'm very happy with the figure. Unfortunately, quite a few of the sword brethren and stuff, because they're fine cast, they're made out of resin. Some of the figures are slightly bent and needed a bit of work. Although the worst figures for it I've found so far have been the Space Wolves, which seem to have a lot of difficulty with that sort of thing, but it's not a huge problem. You can solve it usually with a little bit of heat. So that's it. That's the end of the video. Please leave a like and leave a comment. If you like the video, share it among anyone who you think might care. And, well, that's it, really. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And that's Imperator Vespasian on his way out. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for putting up with the sounds of rattlings. And goodbye.